What's up, guys? M. Jones back in the house again for like the first time in what, 7, 8 months? Man, I've been gone. Where have I been? I've just been watching so many movies. I had to catch up. No, I've been gone for a little bit, and I kind of took a little break from doing all the reviews and stuff. But I've accumulated a ton of movies since probably my last update in November, and obviously the last movie in-screen update I did. Actually at a theater since like January. So I've accumulated a ton of movies, and I'm happy to be back and cannot wait to talk with you about all my purchases. Ever since probably January till about now. I haven't bought a ton. You would think January to August I have like 100. No, I probably have just about like 20 to 25 to talk about today. Gonna try to keep it short per movie just because there are so many. And I don't really want to talk that long. That's crazy. But again, so glad to be back. Can't wait to connect again with all the followers, and I can't thank you enough for that. All right, let's go alphabetical order as always. First one I picked up was Aspen Extreme. If you've never seen this, it's a really good movie that got terrible reviews, and I'm sure Rotten Tomatoes took a huge shit on it. It came out in like early '90s. I mean, it is just kind of just popcorn fun. Like it's a shitbag of a movie, but it's just fun to just enjoy yourself and know that, you know, how accurate is it? Probably very slim. But, you know, it's an early Peter Berg right here, who's a great director now. And I've always liked him as an actor. And, you know, it's really just, it's a fun movie. You know, it kind of just is a great movie that reminds me of my childhood when I used to go skiing and snowboarding as a little kid. And, you know, I just like to watch it. And there's a little bit of a love triangle, obviously, and some friction from their actual ski instructor, like boss and stuff, of these two who are ski instructors. It's just a good movie to watch, and it's fun. But don't expect too much. Don't expect any Oscar performances. Next one I got, you know, I just recently picked this up. I got this at Best Buy. And I'll tell you what, Best Buy, you know, there's a lot of movies here I got from Best Buy in this video. But Best Buy, I really feel like they're struggling. You know, I think they've been struggling so bad that they're not really getting extra orders of movies. You know, they'll like, for example, a new release on a Tuesday, they'll get like 30 copies. But they're not going to say, oh, well, we got to, you know, order more. They just kind of just get enough to see who buys it. And that's scary to me because Best Buy has been the go-to since Circuit City. And Suncoast Video. So I think maybe Best Buy could be out of business in a couple years. I just have this feeling because I don't feel like anyone goes there anymore. Everyone just does everything online because it's convenient and you save gas. So again, I'm a little concerned about Best Buy, but they do have some phenomenal prices for movies, anywhere from $4.99 to $7.99, $9.99, $14.99, $17.99. Awesome prices. So as I digress. So anyway, I got Birdcage. You know, I always loved this movie. You know, I've always thought it was hysterical because I remember this movie and Mrs. Doubtfire was the first time I found out what like homosexuality was, and I was so confused how that works. But I was young, you know. Now I've gotten older. I understand it more, and I just thought it was so crazy that Nathan Lane and Robin Williams were like together, and I just was like I remember I was 12 watching this. I'm like, how is that possible? I just don't understand. And my mom's like, just you'll get it. Just give it time. Just, you know, you'll grow up and you'll understand. So I was like, okay, whatever. But this movie's hysterical. You know, these two here, Nathan Lane and Robin Williams, they both have a child, you know, together, I guess, that is Robin Williams to a former lover who was a female, and they've kind of just raised them together, and you know that young boy is getting married to this dude's I believe is it Diane Wiest? Yeah, Diane Wiest from Parenthood, and then of course famous Gene Hackman. They're both uber conservative. He's a politician, Republican, and you know they're not really big into homosexuality. As you can pretty much guess. So they try to hide the fact that they're gay, and they dress Nathan Lane up as a woman, and things happen with that, you know, with meeting them. And I don't want to ruin it if you haven't seen it, but man, cheap. It was in the cheap bin. I had to get it because it does make me laugh because I do love Robin Williams. Check this out; it's great. Next one, you know, I had to get this one just for the fact that it's just such a great movie. It makes you feel good. It makes you see the soft side of Jack Nicholson a little bit, even though he's being directed and scripted. But you see a soft side in him that it's kind of refreshing. But the bucket list, you know, I love this movie. It's probably one of my dad's favorite new movies. You know, and my dad's always watching this movie. But you know, I watch it a lot too because it's just a great movie. Anytime I come across this movie, no matter where it's at in the movie, I'll watch it. You know, it just makes me feel good. I love when the little girl gives Jack Nicholson a hug. Spoiler alert. You know, I just love that. You know, I just really appreciate just the kindness and genuineness of each character. And I just love this movie. I can watch it over and over and over. And it's about two guys that are dying, that make a bucket list of what they want to do before they die. And basically, the finances are fine because Jack Nicholson owns the hotel owns the hospital, excuse me, that he's staying at. And he has a ton of money, and they become roommates and friends, and they just go on a major trek. And it's just a very sweet movie. It's a great. It's almost like a perfect movie. It really is. It's great. So check bucket list out if you have not. The next one, I remember seeing this movie with my buddy John when I was probably, when did this movie come out? This movie came out probably like 2000, I guess 2005 this came out. But Charlie and the Chocolate Factory came out in like 2005. I was in my late teens when I saw this, and I remember my one buddy who I used to go see movies with a few times here and there every now and then, kind of a good acquaintance. He used to get so stoned for every movie, and I remember, I didn't partake honestly, but I remember he would get so stoned, and for this movie, I think that was the most stoned I've ever seen my buddy. He sat there looking at that stuff like, he was like staring at every corner of the screen, drooling, like looking at all the candy. And I mean, it was munchy times 1,000. Like, he was on fire watching this movie, and that's all I remember about this movie because I didn't really like it. I had to buy it just because I love Willy Wonka so much, and I wanted this as a collective, a collector item to have both movies. I thought it was okay. I thought Johnny Depp was a little creepy. I thought Charlie Bucket character was okay. I don't know. I thought the Oompa Loompa thing was creepy with the little Spanish guy. I just didn't really like it. But I had to buy it just so maybe I'd give it another try and maybe like it more. Or just to be able to say I have the set of Willy Wonka and Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. So that's why I got it. But I just think of my buddy John who got so stoned for this movie. And it just completely it made my experience so much better because I thought the movie wasn't very good. And he was just tripping balls like you wouldn't believe. That's what I think of when I see this movie. Next movie, I had to buy it just because Matthew McConaughey, man, he got a best actor for this role. He was nominated for it and he won it. And Dallas Buyers Club, first of all, right now at Best Buy it's like $12.99, which is a great price for a movie that could have won an Oscar for Best Picture and multiple other things. But it did win the Best Actor for McConaughey. He was amazing, and of course it also won Best Supporting Actor in Jared Leto, who played Rylon. I think it was the transgender prostitute that had AIDS, I believe. And just a great movie. I mean, from start to finish was excellent. Matthew McConaughey started out as just a real bigot and just very simple, arrogant, and just very very selfish and just closed-minded to everything. And then after a while, he starts to pick up on things with with the whole kind of evolution of AIDS in the early '80s, mid '80s. And he becomes actually a good human being through the whole process of what he is diagnosed with. If you haven't really read much about it, I don't want to ruin it for you. But just a great movie, and for him to lose all this weight, I mean, that's just, the dedication is so much there, and you can see how he dedicated this role so important to just to Hollywood and to his fans because he lost all this weight, and you could tell his physical focus with his body was, equating his mental focus too. Like, he was just outstanding in this movie. And I had to buy it just so I can watch it at my disposal, just because I thought he was absolutely outstanding in his character as Ron Woodruff. So please go see this. Phenomenal movie. One of the best last year. Next one I had to get was End of Watch. I really love movies that are depicted from a video camcorder, like the Blair Witch Projects and the Paranormal Activities, and you can even say like this too. And I believe Jarhead was like that. Another Jake Gyllenhaal. I just feel like it's so real. I feel like I could have done that. And then when you see these famous actors and actresses doing it, it kind of makes you feel like you're kind of like, on the same page, so to speak. In this movie, it has a lot of ups and downs in it, and the downs are very sad, and the ups are very funny and enlightening, and how they catch crooks and how they really talk, and just the lingo between cops and the struggles they have when they're when they have a serious job of trying to stop people with drugs and guns and all that kind of stuff. But just a very good movie, and I mean, I might have shed a tear on this one. I'm just saying. Might have. Who knows? Next one. I had to get this one. It was $7.99, which is in questioning, like, does it suck, or are they just trying to sell stuff at Best Buy? I got Expendables 2 for $7.99 at Best Buy. I really just, I was shocked by that. I thought maybe, how is that even remotely possible? Because I feel like it's not that old. And I guess they're getting a big push for Expendables 3 coming out soon. And they sold the first one for $7.99, and of course they sold the sequel here for $7.99. Now, fortunately, I do already have Expendables, the first one. So I just wanted to get this one just to complete my set, just because I loved all these guys growing up. And the fact that Jean-Claude Van Damme, right where my finger's at, the fact that Jean-Claude Van Damme is the bad guy, I cannot wait. And I have not seen this. So I'm really excited to see that, just how he is the bad guy. Because I just cannot imagine him being bad. I just grew up with him as Bloodsport and and Frank Dukes. Like I just can't imagine a kickboxer. So I'm excited to watch this. I'm sorry I haven't seen it, so I can tell you more. But I'm just being honest. I bought it and there it is. So excited to watch this. And anytime there's Arnie and Sly, you gotta watch. Classic action packed. Next one. I got this movie when I was a little boy in the old classic VHS Disney tape cases. The ones that opened up like that, the real big ones. I used to love those so much. I still have all of them at my parents' house. I probably will never get rid of them just because I love them. But I had to get Great Mouse Detective. It really is a good movie. It was kind of one that got lost in the mix of Disney, and it was one that I always liked out of most of them. So, I already can foresee my kids wanting to watch this. So. I've been basically for the past probably 2 years now have been buying most of the the Diamond Edition Disney movies, and if I can't get Diamond, I don't really care. But I've been trying to get all the Blu-rays of all the Disney. Now they're costly as shit. They're sometimes as much as $30, $35, $40. But usually I go for the ones that are like nothing more than $20. I don't want to spend too much. Like, I still see a lot of them being sold for $30. It's like, Jesus, $30 for one movie. And I understand why, because they're going to be limited. But, I buy the ones I can afford at the time. And, I really can't wait to keep these just for, my kids someday. Because I know they'll appreciate it, and I'll be proud of myself for doing it. So, looking ahead. And another one, I don't believe this is Disney, but this is a classic from when I was a little boy. And, this would be great for my kids someday, too, is Harry and the Hendersons. When this first got put on Blu-ray, I was on it like white on rice. I love this movie. I love everything about it. I thought it was so funny. I love that the guy behind Harry was the same guy that dressed up as Predator. I think his name was Kevin Peter Hall. Yeah, Kevin Peter Hall. He was in a car accident after all these movies, and he had a blood transfusion. Unfortunately, the transfusion had tampered blood, which was actually covered in like HIV and AIDS, that kind of thing. So like he died of AIDS because of that. And talk about shitty luck. But just a sweet movie, a young John Lithgow, and it's just the movie's so funny, and there's so many great catchphrases and stuff like that, and just funny lines and funny scenes. So I had to get this because I could watch this over and over and over. And it just definitely, you got to watch it if you haven't seen it. It's a great movie. The next one I had to get, I watched this with very low expectations, and I think if I watched movies with low expectations every time, I'd probably enjoy it. But how would that kind of be, skewed? Would it be actually accurate? How would I be valid with my, basically my critiques? I don't know. I had low expectations for this movie, but Jack Reacher, I thought it was going to probably suck, because I think Tom Cruise has been lousy for a long time. I can't tell you the last time I really enjoyed a Tom Cruise top billing movie, which means he was the first one in the credits. He was fantastic in Tropic Thunder, but he wasn't the main character. But the last real movie I enjoyed of him was probably, I would even go back to the 90s. I haven't really liked anything he's done in 2000s. But I liked Mission Impossible. That's probably the last one I liked that he was top billing. And Jack Reacher, I thought he was exceptional. And I've told you before in the past about Jai Courtney, who I love. He was the villain in this movie. He was excellent too. But this movie's based off books, and I never got to read the books, but watching this movie with low expectations, just because I think Tom Cruise has been kind of whatever for the last 16 years, just like Adam Sandler. They've done nothing really good in a decade and a half. I went into it low, and I came out really high. And I don't mean like my buddy from Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. I was high on life. I felt really good about this movie, and I loved it. And the opening sequence with the sniper rifle, man, it was just cut to the core. It was crazy. But just a great movie, and you got to see it if you haven't. It's definitely worth a buy, just because it's a really good movie, and it's twisty and it's turny, and just loved it. So check it out. Good flick. Along with the Great Mouse Detective that I also that I previously mentioned, I had to get this one also just for my kids growing up someday, because I had to get the Jungle Book. I loved it as a kid. I remember I got all the toys. I think they were from McDonald's. I think I got all the toys when I was a little boy, and I just really loved this movie. I always thought it was such a classic, and I used to love the real big bear, Baloo. I really loved him, and I think they had kind of was an offshoot from this movie to a show called, was it Tailspin? I believe it was Tailspin. Correct me in comments if I'm wrong. I think it was Tailspin. And Baloo was like the pilot on that show. I think I'm right. Tell me if I'm wrong. I'm not sure, or if I'm correct. But I love this book, this movie so much, The Jungle Book. Just loved Baloo, and I just remember how he became, friends with this little boy Mowgli, who is right there. And I just loved everything about this movie. I really loved the music they sang. The one song called "The Bare Necessities." Love that. I could still probably sing it. I won't. But I do remember I love that song so much, and just a great movie to own. Again, it's a Diamond Edition for Disney. I'm pretty sure these are going to be basically limited for purchase, so you got to get them now, because I don't think they're going to reproduce them much more. But just, you got to have it. It's a classic. Alright, well, I think we're almost halfway. I know it's a longer video, but I have a lot of catching up to do. I'm sorry. The next movie I want to talk about, absolutely loved. Did kind of shitty in the theaters, did kind of shitty from the critics. I thought it was really good. Was Larry Crown. Tom Hanks, Julia Roberts, Cedric the Entertainer. I thought it was really good. I think George Takei, the Asian guy. I thought it was a great movie. It was a guy that lost his job from like a Costco kind of movie, and he really had no degree to really get those interviews to get the big jobs. So he goes back to like a community college, and she happens to be the teacher in one of his classes, and he just kind of shows his lively spirit, and it kind of reinvigorates her again to enjoy her life. And she's dating kind of a dickbag, and he just kind of reinvigorates everything for her, and she kind of teaches him ways of school. They get along, and could there be a chance of love? And possibly, you got to see it. But just really love this movie, and one of my favorite parts of this movie is a speech that Tom Hanks' character Larry Crown does about his time when he was in the military. And it's a beautiful scene. You can definitely check it out on YouTube for that scene. And his speech is, second to none. It's just really interesting, and you just got to love the genuine kindness and the genuine happiness that he, basically shows in that scene. So check out this movie. It's pretty good. Besides, it's a pretty good movie. It's if you would say great, I wouldn't say great. I would say good. I would say above okay. But it's a good movie. The next one I had to get, just another classic. I bought this movie, like the big VHS tape from Disney that they had with the big flap that opens up. The Little Rascals. I just love this movie. I don't think many of these actors here, all these little kids, ever turned out to be anything real famous. I know this kid here who played Alfalfa was in The Big Green. I know this boy was, I think, Derek in Full House. And I think this boy was in Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. And, all these other kids, I don't really know what really happened to them. But it didn't really matter because you know what? These kids were great. Like, I just loved this movie. I could probably spot off the entire script right now just because I watched it so many times. And it just, you know, I just thought it was a great flick. And I remember Reba McEntire had a cameo at the end, and, you know, spoiler, sorry. And I just remember thinking, you know, it was a good movie. It was a little strange, and they had the go-kart race, and at the end, you know, to keep their car, to try to win their car back, and it was just a good movie. I really liked it, but I know I could probably quote this whole movie, and it's a good one for sure. The next one, you know what? I watched the movie that Tom Hanks was recently in about Saving Mr. Banks, you know, with Emma Thompson, right? Emma Thompson and Tom Hanks. And I was bored as hell, that movie. I didn't really like it. I hate to be insensitive about it. I felt like it was just so boring and it wasn't interesting. You know, I thought the Tom Hanks playing Walt Disney was a stretch. I didn't think that really fit for him too much because Tom Hanks sounds like Tom Hanks. You know, he never changes really his voice, like Kevin Costner. I can always tell it's them. You know, there's no real disguise. So I don't like that. You know, I think Tom Hanks is a great guy, great person, everything like that. Is he a great actor? Yeah, he's a great actor, what he can do. But I think his voice is always his downfall because it's always the same voice, no matter what role he has. So I didn't really like that. But anyway, I got the original movie, Mary Poppins. And basically Mary Poppins was what was produced from the movie Saving Mr. Banks. You know, Saving Mr. Banks kind of explained how Mary Poppins came about. And Mary Poppins is just an absolute classic. I mean, you have to see this movie. It won so many awards. You know, in 1964, this movie right here won 5 Academy Awards. I mean, it really was great. And the writer, basically, the woman that, you know, that put this movie together is the reason it came over from England. She didn't want any of this stuff to happen. She was fully against it, and much to her chagrin, like, this movie did so well with awards and just acclaim and notoriety and fame. I mean, this movie is amazing. But Julie Andrews, you know, plays the famous Mary Poppins, and just Dick Van Dyke dancing with the penguins. Like, it's just so many famous scenes and just so many famous parts in this movie. But just a wonderful movie. You got to check it out. Again, I got it for my kids because I know it's a Disney movie that I would be very, very happy to own, so I had to get it. So check this out. It's a classic. Alright, next movie I had to get. This movie was probably my favorite movie of 2013, along with like Mud and like A Place Beyond the Pines. But this movie I absolutely loved. Nebraska. You know, I think it was a very, very well done movie. It was black and white, and it wasn't supposed to depict back in the 30s or 40s or anything. It was supposed to be current time. But this movie was fantastic. You know, Bruce Dern plays an old curmudgeon who's kind of like, everyone thinks he's crazy because he just leaves and walks on the highways and just does whatever he wants. And he gets kind of wind that he might have won a lot of money, you know, in the form of sweepstakes, which are usually bullshit. But he basically thinks he won. So he wants to take this trek all the way to Nebraska from like way up where he's from. I think it was like South North Dakota, something like that. He was way north of the United States, but he wanted to go down to Nebraska to collect his money. So his estranged son, Will Forte from SNL, who is right here, as you can see, takes him down. And they kind of reconnect, and he learns a lot about his dad. And you know, it's a very sweet movie. It's a little somber. It's a little sad. It's a little exciting. It's sometimes really funny. You know, there's just some really funny scenes with Will Forte and I believe his cousins that aren't impressed by his car at all, or aren't impressed at all with how little he knows about cars. So like all that, it's just a good movie. And really love June Squibb, who played Bruce Dern's wife, and she was hysterical. She had some great parts in this, right there. Just definitely see this movie. It's a great movie, outstanding movie. The next one, my God, I mean, we're talking about Aspen Extreme earlier being just a lousy movie, but I liked it. There's another one. This movie's lousy, but I liked it. I remember my dad taped it for me as a little boy. I believe it was on like the WB when I was probably like 6 or 7. But no holds bar. I mean, this movie is just a sack of shit. But it's like it's a sack of shit, but it's my sack of shit. You know what I mean? It's like I like it just because I grew up watching it, not knowing anything about acting abilities and acting qualities. Well, Hulk Hogan is in this movie, and he needs to his name's Rip, and he wears a T-shirt that says "Rip 'em." It's awesome, and I love Hulk Hogan, always have. And he goes against Zeus, who is Tony Tiny Lister, Debo from Friday. And they fight at the very end in this wrestling match, and it's basically it's Hulk Hogan defending his brother's honor because Zeus paralyzed him, And it's such a bad movie. The action is pretty bad. The acting's even worse. But my God, get some popcorn. Don't give a shit for the next hour and 40 minutes and watch it. You'll feel better. It's actually a fun movie. Not a great movie, but a fun movie. Next one, man, I had to get this one as soon as I saw it. That was available on Blu-ray. Revenge of the Nerds. Just love this movie. I've always loved this movie. I thought it was absolutely hysterical. I even loved John Goodman, who was the dickbag coach in the football team. He was awesome in this movie. But Robert Carradine, him and what's the Goose from Top Gun, Anthony Edwards. They were the two main characters. They were nerds going to a college, and they get picked on right from the start. And then they kind of get thrown out of the freshman dorms, along with many others. So they had to live in this huge gym auditorium kind of thing. And they became friends of all the other quote unquote nerds. And that's where Curtis Armstrong, where you first meet him. Curtis Armstrong in the movie, he played Booger. He was so funny in that movie. I actually got to meet Robert Carradine, and I got to meet Curtis Armstrong. And they were okay dudes. I don't know. I thought they were pretty proud of themselves when I met them at, I think it was Monster Mania or Chiller Theater. They were okay. Maybe I don't know them too personally, but I thought they were pretty proud of themselves in this movie because of this movie. So whatever. But just a great movie and so funny and pretty cheap on Amazon right now too. Next one I had to buy. I remember seeing this in the theaters and I thought, there's a lot of good names in this movie, like Benicio del Toro, John Travolta, Taylor Kitsch, Blake Lively, Salma Hayek, Aaron Johnson. I'm like, this is going to probably be a good movie. Well, I was 100% correct. Absolutely love this movie. One of my favorite movies of 2012. I thought this movie was just a badass flick about drugs and drug trafficking and the violence that can bring on. I thought this movie was in my opinion, amazing. I don't think it did very well, Academy Award-wise, but I just thought it was so good, and the filmmaker of this movie was Oliver Stone, who always makes very questionable movies, whether or not you're into politics or not. He always has something pretty political about his movies. This movie was very much about basically how drugs are trafficked, also sold, also picked up, also everything. Basically the A to Z on drugs and how they're trafficked. And I just loved this movie. And it was very violent and it was very interesting. And, I'm a big fan of Aaron Johnson. I think he is an absolute wonderful actor. He was one of the main characters in Kick-Ass, and he was the character of Kick-Ass. And, of course, Taylor Kitsch right here, he was awesome in it too. Blake Lively, hot as hell as always. Just really loved this movie, and I thought it was extremely brutal, extremely violent, but it almost had to be for what really this world is. I mean, there's no PG-rated movie that deals with drugs. It's just not going to happen. It would be a piece of shit. So this movie is definitely rated R and definitely a great watch. You need to watch this movie. I loved it. Go watch it over and over. The next one I had to pick up, oh God. This movie's scary as shit. I remember seeing this back in 2007 or 8. I think it came out in 2008. Yeah, 2008. The Strangers. Oh God, this would suck like hell to be part of this movie if you're the victim. Liv Tyler and I think Scott Speedman. Yeah, Scott Speedman. Whoever the hell that is, I don't know who that is. They're basically coming back from a wedding and they're having some kind of kind of having a lover's quarrel, not getting along too well, and they go back to this house in the woods, and they're alone and stuff like that, and eventually this guy here, who I think was Wes Bentley, Wes Bentley from American Beauty, he and his two partners in crime were girls. They wear masks and they just happen to just knock on the door and just want to come in, and they're creepy, and they have these masks on and they happen to just get in the house and all this shit happens, and talk about a scary movie. And if this ever happened in real life, holy fuck, this would be this would be terrible. This would be so scary. But I loved it. I thought it was a good movie. You know, the part where Liv Tyler's sitting there from a side angle smoking a cigarette, you know, and then you see him just kind of walk in the back and just look at her and then just walk away like it was no big deal. I'm like, oh my God, like, so scary. Great movie. Definitely suggest it. Speaking of kind of scary and thrilling, again, I'll have to continue with that kind of genre, would be Straw Dogs. Absolutely love this movie. My good buddy Andy told me about this about 3-4 years ago and said, you got to see it. And so, you know, I took his word for it, and he was 100% correct. It was a great movie. Actually, really, really, really love this movie. In fact, I thought it was one of the best movies I've seen James Marsden really be in, because he kind of played a bitch, and then after a while he got a lot stronger and tougher and smarter. It kind of reminded me of the guy that was the husband in The River Wild, David Strayhorn. He was kind of a pussy the whole movie. Then at the very end, he becomes a badass to try to protect Meryl Streep and his son Joe Mazzello from Kevin Bacon and John C. Reilly. Well, that's kind of what happened with James Marsden here. You know, he was just a wimp, then he came like a hero. So I just love this movie. It was a remake from a movie a long time ago, and just absolutely love this movie. And it's kind of scary and kind of like hits you right at home, but just a good movie. You got to check it out. Very underrated. The next one I just got recently from Best Buy, literally like last weekend, was The Talented Mr. Ripley, and a 1999 suspense thriller, somewhat action kind of flick. And it is a very, very good movie. And, you know, Mr. Ripley, I believe I have this correct, was he Jude? I forget. Let me think real quick. I think he was Tom Ripley. Yeah, I'm sorry. His name was Tom Ripley. That was Matt Damon's character. And he goes over to Jude Law's country in England, and he played this guy named Dickie. And I just remember that I saw this a long time ago. And I hate to screw it up, but I remember, you know, Dickie was kind of an asshole. You know, he was kind of a dickhead, and you know, he had a girlfriend, Gwyneth Paltrow, and I think, you know, he started to like her and stuff like that. And just he turns out to not be the greatest guy in the world. And you got to see it. It's a really good movie. But you know, absolutely excellent acting from Matt Damon and Jude Law. So check this out, Talented Mr. Ripley, 1999. All right, we have 4 to go. Getting exhausted. Okay, next one. I absolutely had to get this movie. I was so excited to see this. It was $7.99 at Best Buy. Recently got this over the weekend. It was Weekend at Bernie's. You know, I actually like the second one just as much as the first one, if not better. So I'm kind of looking for the second one to come out on Blu-ray, but I'll take the first one. Really love this movie as well. This was just with Jonathan Silverman and Andrew McCarthy. And they basically, you know, Terry Kaiser, this guy here, who I met at Monster Mania, is a really nice guy, by the way. That's basically, he's the boss of these two, and they go to his house, which is like right on the ocean for like a weekend, and he dies, but they need him to be alive, unfortunately, so they have to like take him around and pretend like he's real. And it's hysterical. There's a lot of funny parts, and definitely a movie you should watch. Really, really love this movie. Would love to see Weekend at Bernie's 2 released on Blu-ray. If it's not, I didn't know, so correct me if I'm wrong. But you got to see this. This is a very interesting movie. It's very fun. Okay, next one. This recently just came out, probably this past couple years, if not last year, 2013. Was We're the Millers. I really thought this movie was hysterical. I thought this movie was outstanding. You know, it was Jason Sudeikis and Jennifer Aniston as the main build cast members, and he has to like get like marijuana, like basically he has to get marijuana to like he has to get it to a drug dealer in a matter of time. And they have to go across the border, so he has to pretend to actually be like a family guy in an RV and not look like a typical like drug runner. So he like asks Jennifer Aniston, who's a stripper in the movie, to be his wife, and asks this homeless chick to be his daughter, and asks this real nerdy like virgin like kid to be his son. And they just happen to all just, you know, go through a bunch of trials and tribulations throughout the movie, and they really start to care about each other. But they're just, you know, if you can see, it's a reflector. You know, that's what they really look like. but this is what they portray to be. You know, it's pretty cool I did that. But you know, it's just a really good movie, and there's some really really funny scenes. And you know, there's some extra characters not in here, like, you know, Scotty P, and he's like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just so funny. So I highly recommend you check out this movie because I absolutely love this movie. Love it. Check it out. Very funny. The next thing I got, you know what? I had to buy this. I think I got it for like $30, but I believe it was, let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It was 6 X-Men movies. You know, it was a huge collection of the X-Men movies. You know, with even the Wolverine stuff, like the X-Men Origins Wolverine and the Wolverine. And, you know, I had to buy this. It was so cheap. I mean, 6 movies for like $30 is like $5 a Blu-ray. That's amazing. So I had to get this. You know, I have yet to even open it. I don't know if I will open it. I hate to say I might even sell it at some point, which I've never really done, but I might. Just because I think I just like the price so much, I just had to justify myself to buy something that cheap. But I probably will open them up and watch them. You know, I've seen probably 3 out of 6 of these. So it'd be nice to just have like a snowy day sometime in the winter and just watch all these movies, or a really rainy day and have nothing to do, which is rare. But if that's the case, I might just watch these movies. But yeah, I had to get the whole collection. Great price. Okay, last one. Thank God, I'm thirsty. All right. So, last one I picked up, you know, I saw this in the theaters. I was scared shitless of the movie. It was really good, really well done. Love the masks that the bad guys wore. But You're Next, you know, just a creepy movie. You know, I did a review on this. If you haven't ever watched it, please do. I did it right after I saw it in the theater. I had to buy it just because I do collect a lot of the good horror movies. And I always want to keep them just in case I want to watch them again down the road and don't have means of streaming online or Netflix, so I just have the copy of it. But this movie is really good. It was really terrifying. You know, there's not too much I want to say about it because I could give it away easily about basically what really happens at the end with like the bad guys. But really, it's a guy that goes with his girlfriend to kind of a secluded, I guess, neighborhood that has houses every which way in the woods, and it's about, you know, bad guys that come in and infiltrate the house and try to get what's theirs and what they want out of it. And is there people connected, involved with the bad guys? Maybe, maybe not. But just one of those kind of like who's behind it kind of situation. But that's what made it really good. You know, I really did love this movie, and definitely excited that I was able to purchase it for a cheap price. I think I got this back when this movie was, I think this movie came out to be like $24.99 at one point. I remember for like a day it was like $9.99. I got it so cheap at Best Buy. I think for a whole week it was like $10. I'm like, boom, it's me. But anyway, that is my August 6th Blu-ray update. And I must say, it's so glad to be back talking with you guys again, sorry. And I definitely will promise to have more videos come out in the near future. I probably will be doing some in-theater reviews again. Got to get my man Jim Bob back into the mix again. You know, I got to get my man, you know, Craigie back in there. Steggs Jr. Got to get him back in here too. And I'll probably introduce you to a few new people, so be checking back for that as well. But until then, you take it easy. MK, bye.